This is the Variety Studio panel on TV comedy. I'm John Weissman, awards editor at Variety, and we are here with Martha Plimpton from Raising Hope, Jesse Tyler Ferguson from Modern Family, Georgia King from The New Normal, Mindy Kaling from The Mindy Project, Max Greenfield from New Girl, and Adam Scott from Parks and Recreation. And just to get things started, I'm going to go around and basically ask you, some of you have been with these characters for a while and some of you are new to them, but what did you connect most with your character when you first started, and what was the most foreign part to you? Like, this will be particularly interesting for you, Mindy, but what was the easiest part to play and what was hardest to latch onto with your character?
Well, I liked that she smoked. That came really naturally to me. I have many, many years of experience with that, unfortunately. And I liked that she was, intelligent but not smart. I felt like I could relate to that. And I liked that she was funny without meaning to be. I enjoyed that. I like that she's wry, but she's guileless, you know what I mean? And I enjoyed that about her. And I guess, what was the hardest thing for me? The hardest thing was waking up at 4 a.m. to play her. But so far, and I don't want to sound, obnoxious, but so far, I haven't felt too much difficulty there because I really like the writing, and it feels very smart and good to me, and I love the other actors, so I kind of just enjoy playing her, and I'm not finding too many, I'm not finding it too difficult right now. Maybe that's maybe I should say it's really hard.
Maybe you were well cast. Jesse, how about you?
There are some obvious parallels with me and my character. He's gay, and I know, and I got the breaking news. I understand that closely, but I always find it funny when I get criticism from people who say, he's a little over the top, or the gay character is a cliche or stereotypical, because really I wake up and I don't put anything onto Mitch. He's basically me. He's a more serious version of myself. So when I hear stereotypical, I kind of take it personally. And then I think, oh gosh, well, how am I living my life? And then it opens up all these other questions. But I love that he's a little more serious. I find people who take themselves too seriously to be very funny. So it's a challenge to kind of find the humor in someone who is so serious. And I have yet to also, like Martha, find something that's really super difficult about playing the character. Sometimes it's just hard when you're the straight man to find an interesting way to play the straight man. I think that's probably the biggest challenge for both me and Julie Bowen and Ed O'Neill, who are kind of the straight men of our relationships.
When you were shown the part, I mean, I'm not sure the backstory of you getting involved with the show, but did you feel like it was written for you? Was it so on
Well, they
target?
didn't want to see me for Mitch. They wanted to see me for Cam. So I wanted to play Mitch. I thought there was more of a challenge to that role, and also I was interested in playing not only a boyfriend, but a father and a brother and a son, and so which are roles I've never played before. And so I just thought it would be more of an experience for me, and they would not see me for Mitch until I went in and read Cameron as if I were auditioning for Mitch, and then they kind of saw how I would have played that role.
Georgia, how about you?
I think with Goldie, I guess the things I like the most is the fact it's very simple. She's a really good person, and I've had some great times playing a lot of stalkers. And I usually get the psycho characters and the crazy girlfriends and the quirky neighbor. And so it was kind of great to be playing someone who was more normal in The New Normal. So I think I really responded to her, as cheesy as it sounds, her heart and the overwhelming purity and goodness of her personality. And I guess it was weird. I actually rang my agent straight away and said that I felt like I was born to play the role and it was so like me. And on paper, I suppose it isn't, because she's a mother and I'm not, and she's American and I'm not, and she's a waitress and I'm not. But there are qualities to her that I think I aspire to have, like generosity and that selflessness that comes with being a mother, and the fight that she has for her daughter. So I kind of found all of those elements really uplifting. And I think challenge-wise, well, I mean, I do like stalking people, and I've gotten good at playing those characters for a reason. Possibly, actually, the cultural references of the accent is not necessarily just the way it sounds, but I think it's to do with your background and the idea of coming from the Midwest. It's not just America as a whole, it's an actual place, and finding, just like in England, if you're from up north or if you're Scottish or from Devon, you have a slightly different energy and nature and idea of the world. And I kind of, not to be too kind of broad, but usually I think when you try and inhabit someone from such a different place to your own, I think you can sometimes fall short. So I've been hoping to understand where she's from, even though I'm from the countryside in Devon. So I think that's probably been my challenge.
Okay, Mindy, how hard did you make it for yourself?
I think the fun part, well, I guess the challenging part is that, well, here's what's really fun about the character is that she does terrible things and she's very wild and she can be very bad. And I get to do a lot of embarrassing things. I get to put myself in really compromising situations, which is really fun. And act poorly and terribly and drink a lot and make out with good-looking actors and things like that. Like, I get to do a lot of really dramatic, fun stuff. And the challenging part is that I think people think that I'm the character. A lot of times there's a lot of bad qualities, and there is some overlap, obviously, and the name is confusing unnecessarily. So I can't be like offended by it. But I think one of the biggest challenges with my job in particular is really deciding to focus on the character and giving my character, I'm like getting to do so much more acting than I ever did on The Office. So I have to become a better actor and really hone in on that and ignore the other parts of my job. That's probably the most challenging part. But yeah, it's been fun so far.
How about you, Max?
I don't know. Character is always like kind of a dangerous thing for me. I think especially in TV, I just try to be as open as possible because you just don't know what's coming next week. And the writers are, all of a sudden you make a decision about your character and then the writers give you something that goes against that and you don't want to be caught in that situation. So I just kind of show up every day. And I think the character, especially over the last year, has certainly developed into what he's developed into. And it's been nothing but fun. I mean, every week is fun, and because of that, and because everything is new every week, and I think that ability to stay open and kind of free has made it so much fun. The only difficult part, I think, is the diet. I want to unleash on some carbohydrates in a way that would be terrifying to everyone in the room. But they keep making me take my shirt off and like referencing the fact that I have somewhat of like a desirable physique, and I keep having to do sit-ups, and I just want to eat.
So you need an episode entirely set in the past for the
We
college
did one
enrichment.
episode where I lost it and ate a bunch of bacon-wrapped hot dogs on the beach, and I made a bet with our DP how many I could take down, and I think I got to about 9 before I lost it, and it was great. It was great. It was the most fun I've had on the show. But yeah, I think that's the only thing. It's challenging.
And Adam, how about you?
I guess the thing I connected to was when I started the show, it had already been going for like 2 seasons. So my character was the new guy who didn't know anyone, and I was the new guy who didn't know anybody. So as the show went on and my character got to know the other characters, I was actually getting to know the other people on the show, and so that was sort of an easy kind of way in. But you know, and the most challenging thing was the same thing, just sort of being the new guy and not wanting to be. I remember when I was starting out, I had a recurring part on Boy Meets World, and I didn't know how to integrate myself in. I felt weird, like I'd never been on a set, so I started being just overly familiar with everybody. And like, I remember it was a season finale, and I was there, and I didn't really know anyone, and everyone was hugging, so I just started going around hugging all the actors, and I think it legitimately creeped everybody out. And I was soon written off. So I just am kind of wary of socially how to, I didn't want to be overly chummy with people I didn't know that well. And so it was just kind of letting that sort of happen over a period of time rather than, it was just sort of the advantage and the challenge were sort of the same thing.
Martha, talk about getting a chance to spend this much time with a role. I mean, you've done TV before, but a lot of film as well, and this is certainly, I think, your longest commitment to a role. I mean, compared with the film experience, what is it just a different kind of satisfaction, or does TV allow you to really dig into a role like in a way that you haven't before?
Well, it is a comedy, so the most interesting thing I'm learning how to do is to maintain my sort of energy of imagination, so that I don't become that I don't take anything for granted, over time. But because it's a comedy, that means that I have a lot of leeway. As you were saying, it's a bit different than doing a dramatic role or even a dramatic series in the sense that you have some more freedom to kind of go outside of normal narrative, constraints. And so whatever the writers end up wanting to experiment with, you just kind of, as you were saying, you just kind of go with it and remain open to it. But of course, they're all completely different animals, theater, television, and film. They have obviously certain things in common, and there's certain curiosity and skill you have to have in order to be good at any of them. But they're all three very different skill sets, and so each one requires that you kind of readjust your inner, barometer a little bit, your little temperature taker, and sort of show up prepared to be game.
So would you say it was, I mean, as far along in your career as you are, was it still kind of a learning experience? Was it? It
still is. It should always be. And no matter what you're doing, I know it sounds trite, but it's true. In order to have fun, that's what you should be striving for, I think, because it's not worth anything at all if it's not fun. That goes for all of it, but particularly working on a sitcom. Yeah. I mean, if people are coming into work, sort of dour and serious and, hard on each other or themselves, there's not a lot of opportunity for enjoyment and confidence and play. So, yeah.
Jesse, time sort of flies. It's hard to believe. I mean, Modern Family being, I guess, now in season 4, right? When the show first came out on the air, there was still this sort of feeling of momentousness to it, and in particular to you and Cameron's characters. Does it feel already like just more mainstream now, more accepted, less revolutionary what you're doing, or has it evolved in that respect?
We're in full backlash mode right now, so we feel that pressure of like, go away, we're sick of you. From all these people, they're all putting that.
So you've been getting my my anonymous letters.
Yes, and thank you for those, and thank you for the notes. Thank you for the character notes too. No. I mean, but we are. It is nice to have been on for as long as we have, and sort of feel like we're here for a little while. But it is, you have to sort of readjust. But I do love that there are shows on like George's show. I was Andrew Reynolds, who plays one of the gays on that one, is a friend of mine, and I sort of told him, I was like, listen, I'm so happy you're here because you gotta go to some of these I call them gay balls. You go to a lot of events and fundraisers and the HRC and the Trevor, and it's incredibly empowering and important, but it gets exhausting. So I'm like, I'm just happy you're here to go to some of this so I don't have to show up to all of them. Like, yeah, I'm passing you the torch, basically. So it is nice, and unfortunately Partners was just canceled, but it was nice that they're kind of appearing on television without quite so much crazy fanfare. That was the one thing I was sort of disheartened by, was like Cameron and Mitchell were sort of met with this crazy fanfare, and I thought that was exciting, but at the same time, I can't wait for the day when it's not as important.
Right. I mean, I feel like when New Normal premiered, yeah, we knew what the plot was, but it was almost like, oh, Ryan Murphy's doing another show. I felt like that became the biggest story of the show, as opposed to, you know, oh, there are gay characters on the show. I mean, from your perspective, what did it feel like?
I actually thought it was an absolute fanfare. I arrived to do the show from London and had never done press junkets and conferences and radio tours and the amount of stuff you do before a show. And I was amazed at the attention that was really the thing that everyone was concentrating on, was the fact that it was about a gay couple who wanted a baby, and that it was specifically that they were gay, rather than how do people feel about surrogacy as well and single parents. And there were all these other things that our show looks at, like Ellen Barkin's character is an older woman who's slightly lost, and what happens when you're 50, you know, and you're suddenly alone. And, you know, there were all these different elements to our show that were looked over, and instead I kept saying, you know, I had the like 1 million moms protest your show, how do you feel? And I was like, I don't know, that's insane, because we haven't aired yet. So to have...
And then, anyway, there really weren't 1 million of them.
I think it was like, I think it was like 29. I think they did a head count. No, yeah, I don't think it was quite 1 million. But even if it was 1 million, or just 29, I think the fact that such strong opinions before a show had even aired were quite a fresh idea to me. I think that's the politest way of putting it. I was kind of a little bit downhearted that, I mean, I'm from a very liberal background where acceptance is a key element of life. Like, anybody is sort of should be free to be who they are, but unless you kill people. But I thought, you're out. But I thought that was strange. And I mean, we were banned in Utah briefly, and there was a lot of supposed uproar over what I thought was such a beautiful show and a concept about bringing people who possibly won't be able to have a family together in order to have one. And I kind of feel like everyone deserves that opportunity. So it was an interesting beginning. Yeah.
Mindy, you gave one of my favorite interviews that I've heard in a long time on Fresh Air. You talked about
She's talking to you, Max.
You talked about the idea of being busy and.
Sorry, what?
What? I don't understand.
1 second.
NPR, can you explain?
National Public Radio.
Oh. I listen to Kiss.
I'm sorry.
I like Kiss.
What a waste of time that was. I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. You talked about the idea of being busy, and I'm going to paraphrase this badly, but just the idea of not wanting to define yourself as being busy because everyone's busy. But the idea of what you're doing with this show, creating this show and starring in it and being, you know, having so many things fall at your feet. Now that you're a few months into it, have you gotten into more of a comfort zone with what's going on, or is it still just like, are you feeling harried? I mean, how has that evolved for you?
I think I'm naturally kind of an anxious person. So I think even when I retire or whatever, I think I'll always have that just borderline of just feeling anxiety. But what you're referring to is when I was growing up, my mom, she would always tell me, she's like, if you go to a party, you're talking to anyone, you just don't ever bring up how busy you are. Because no matter who you are, no one's gonna be like, well, my life's a dream. And it especially occurred to me during this time because it's something that people talk about a lot because I do a lot of different types of jobs in the show. But, you know, like, I'm not a parent, I'm not a wife. So I know for some of these guys, it's like they have that, which pulls at you in a completely real and emotional way that I don't have to kind of forego or sometimes don't have to deal with. So I feel just really lucky because I can storm off my set. You can't storm away from a relationship as far as I can tell. You can.
You absolutely can.
But it's been, that said, like it is very time consumptive. But I have no hobbies. I don't travel. I don't speak any other languages. So for me, it's like to have my lifestyle. This is a great job to have.
Yeah. I think you alluded to earlier about just how has being a writer improved your acting or affected your acting? Has it had an effect on your acting ability, do you think?
How has the writing affected
the process of writing?
Well, it's an amazing thing to be able to have, you know, 6 writers and to tell them like they are writing just for me. I never have been afford. I mean, it's an actor's dream. And to be able to shoot storylines down because you think it's not true to the character, I mean, it really is one of the most, it is the single best part of the entire job. But the thing that's affected my acting more is working with actors like Chris Messina, who is this incredible actor. And outside of the comedy world, I think he's known more even for other things outside of comedy. So I've been really learning from the other actors, which has been such a fun thing.
Yeah. Max, I have to say that I was shocked when Schmidt and Cece broke up last year. And I was wondering, like, do you get involved with the fate of your character and just like, I mean, did you have a reaction when the script in the finale said, okay, we're gonna break these two up now? And do you get invested into the film? Like, I'd like to see them get back together, or you don't care, you just take what comes?
I mean, you certainly get invested. I think it would be impossible not to. It was tough coming back because we went so deeply into that relationship. It was tough coming back for episode 1 and being single Schmidt and not really kind of knowing how to fit into that role. But it was so informative to have as a character to have this relationship, and I feel like we established it as the first time he was ever in love, and to have that kind of backstory in season 1 going into season 2 has been really, really helpful and useful, and it just completely informs every scene I have with her or really anybody, especially on that show as it deals so much with relationships. And we're eking our way back, or at least he's trying very hard to...
I like you single, I have to say. I do, because I remember there's an episode early on when Zoe's character was gonna maybe have like a kind of a one-night stand fling with you. And it's really, like, your dynamic with Zoe is so juicy, and I like Schmidt as single is so fun. As a showrunner, I would be like, try to keep you single as much as possible.
Yeah, I talked a lot.
Do you know what I mean?
I actually did an interview on NPR where I talked a lot about that, and we really on Fresh Air. It's one of those things where I don't know. It's nice to have that. It's nice when you get an ongoing storyline that then becomes backstory rather than something you then have to kind of like make up.
Well, yeah, I mean, the show, it becomes, as a lot of your shows have, becomes more than just, 22 minutes of jokes. It becomes about something larger than that. Certainly with Parks and Recreation, I mean, you talk about, you felt awkward when you first arrived there, but now you're this central figure in the show. I mean, could you have imagined that you would become such an important part of the show after being more or less the last one to arrive on the scene?
Well, I think that it's definitely an ensemble show. I think, there's Amy, and then we all are kind of orbiting around her. I think she's definitely the central character to the show, and I think every single kind of character and every cog in the machine is of equal importance, and I think that's just a tribute to the writers, that they're able to kind of keep this sort of this sort of Jenga tower of characters that Amy is holding up, and if anyone was removed, it would feel strange and not work. But all of the characters, I think, are of equal importance on the show. But yeah, I mean, just to be kind of integrated into the show and to feel kind of at home there now, and that they've created this kind of whole this completely three-dimensional character is really, really privilege and flattering and all of that, and super fun. I mean, they're all lovely.
How would you compare the Party Down and Parks and Rec experiences?
Well, Party Down was very kind of by the seat of our pants. I mean, we shot those episodes in 4 days, and I mean, the budget was very, very. I mean, when I got the Parks and Rec job, I couldn't believe the craft service table. I couldn't believe you would go to a press event and we didn't. I don't think we were ever mentioned in Entertainment Weekly till we had been canceled for 2 years or something. All we wanted was our show to be mentioned in print somewhere.
We mentioned you.
Oh, yeah, okay, good. So we, it was just such a huge difference. So as far as being on set and working with all of the people, it's equally as fun, and the people are equally lovely. It's kind of a very similar experience once you're there doing it, but everything around it is completely different. It's just much fancier.
You guys are all on single cam shows, and that's, although hasn't completely taken over, it's definitely like a big part of it and allows for all this sort of deadpan humor that your shows have. I mean, what do you think about that in terms of like, that you don't, do you like it that you don't have to do the setup joke, wait for a laugh thing? Would you be able to adapt to that? What's your feeling about the different types of half-hour comedies on? Anyone could jump in. Jesse, go ahead.
Jesse, do it.
Well, I came to LA doing a multi-camera show that was canceled after a year.
It was a great show.
Thank you, Max.
Class was a great show.
Oh yeah, that was
with
great.
Lizzie
Class
Kaplan.
was a great show.
And
With Lizzie Kaplan.
Great cast.
Fun
Lucy
memories.
Punch.
Yeah, Lizzie was on there and Jason Ritter.
It was a great cast.
Yeah.
But I had also, like Martha, just come from the theater world, so that felt like a great transition to have that audience sort of telling you what was funny. I found it very. It was a huge adjustment to like be doing a single camera show with 4 walls around me and like no laughs, and I'm just kind of looking for even the cameraman to crack a smile to know that was at least a little bit funny. So but then at the same time, like I've learned to really kind of embrace that medium. I'm so interested to see like how a show like Up All Night that worked as like a single camera show is gonna work all of a sudden with a live audience. I can't even imagine all of a sudden doing like a live version of Modern Family. And also I think that'd be awesome. But I don't know, I love having an audience feedback just because I'm sometimes really dense and I don't know if something's funny or not. And I also love that the writers had that opportunity to sort of test something out, and then if it wasn't working, caucus really quickly and then come to you with a new joke, and you had the pressure of like memorizing this joke really quickly. And it was like being in war, I imagine. Like that type of stress. Yeah, just like it. But no, it was fun. I loved it. But I enjoy doing single camera very much.
Do you guys think, Mindy or anyone, do you think that single cam lends itself to a higher level, or the two things independent of each other?
I would certainly say that the type of comedy you can get away with in single cam is, sorry, I'm not used to single cam and multicam, new terminology, is something, especially like, for example, the new normal. I know that Ryan and Ali, Ryan Murphy and Ali Adler really want it to be as real as possible, which is, I guess, a cliche, but a cliche for a reason. I think people really respond, audiences really like stuff that they feel is real and that they can relate to, and without a live audience and with that privacy of 4 walls, there's no self-consciousness, so I guess you can let things go away and you can't indulge in a kind of comedy beat or a delivery and a punchline. And I think that's kind of great, that finesse with single cam, that you can kind of have a lot of vulnerability and pain and comedy, and it can be sort of subtly interwoven, you could say.
But even within that structure of single cam, there's kind of a substructure of the mockumentary that The Office did so brilliantly and Parks and Recreations is doing, that we kind of Park and Recreation singular that we're also trying to adopt. And there's that great moment of being able to just like flash to an interview and kind of you get to roll over a lot of backstory there. You can just tell the audience very quickly what you're thinking, which I think is...
You also get to go home before 1 o'clock.
You also get to go home before 1 a.m. It's true.
I think it's, we all probably, I know I would love to do multicam, like having a proscenium and doing a show night. I mean, it's glamorous. It's the kind of, I didn't expect when you're a little kid and you think about doing this kind of job, I think you think more of that than the job that, the single camera job, which, besides the hours being whatever, but like it is just feels more glamorous, and I want to connect with people, and you do find neediness in members of the crew, like you're a de facto audience, like what did you think of it? But I mean, I can't imagine going through, and I love multicam shows.
Yeah.
Like, they're so fun, and there's a connection you feel when you hear the laughter, a coziness that someone's performing a show for you that feels very personal. That I just really envy. I envy a lot of the stuff in
It's true.
multicam to do.
On single camera shows, like, I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I feel like it's not working until I hear the cameraman stifling a laugh or the crew like trying not to laugh. Like, you want an audience that's, like you said, the de facto audience. You want a reaction there. So I would imagine that multicam would be incredibly satisfying in that way. But at the same time, there's a lot of subtlety and stuff that in a single camera show is just
You get to be more cinematic too.
Yeah.
That's one of the great things is I feel like there's a lot of great transition from actors in single camera comedies and dramas that transition very well and naturally into movies. And so you get to, we get to span over vistas like in my pilot. And you're like, oh, this is television, and that's really exciting to be part of.
Yeah.
I think it would be nice to be on a hit multicam.
Right.
Because I think with multicams, it's true. Like, Modern Family hit right out of the gate. And I think that's a possibility with a single cam. I don't think it's really a possibility with the multi. It's like every multi that you've seen be successful has built in, it's taken a minute. Even Big Bang came out and was not, its first season was not, a huge success. It took a minute. But once you get into that rhythm and once your audience has accepted your characters and you know what the show is, when a multicam hits like that, it's the best. And I think that's what we were all kind of raised on, shows like Cheers and Taxi. And I tell Aaron O'Malley, who's our line producer, all the time, can we knock down a wall and put 4 cameras up? Because at this point, it's like, we know who the characters are. Let's just do a multicam.
So it sort of seems like, there's this sort of, in a way, this yearning for multicam to have a resurgence. Big Bang aside, obviously doing very well, but just like, maybe because it's for the lack of subtlety or whatever, but it somehow has become more of a challenge for a multicam show to connect with at least the kind of material that would put you in a panel like this, where it's like really critically respected.